Good morning, you're watching AnewZ. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories for the hour. 26 nations agree to potential security guarantees for post-war Ukraine. US President Donald Trump says he will speak to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, soon. The Israeli military says it controls 40% of Gaza City and plans to expand operations in the coming days. European and Canadian leaders gathered in the Coalition of Willing have finalised a plan for future security guarantees for post-war Ukraine. The plan will now be taken to the US before it can be formalised in the coming days, according to the French President Emmanuel Macron. For the details, we go to Paris and our Ross Cullen.
Well, the coalition of the Willing gathering on Thursday taking place here at the AnewZ Palace, the French presidential residence and office here in the centre of the French capital. Volodymyr Zelensky was present, the Ukrainian president, and he was there for that meeting of more than 30 of Ukraine's allies. Also present here in Paris, Steve Witkoff, the US Special Envoy, to try to ensure close coordination between Washington and Ukraine's other Western allies, but it was also a chance for the Europeans to ask Mr. Witkoff if there is any chance of the Trump administration applying extra pressure on Moscow to force Russia to agree to an immediate ceasefire and then to bring Vladimir Putin to attend a proposed and much discussed bilateral summit with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Everyone sees that Russia rejects every peace initiative and that Putin has so far not agreed to peace.
At a closing news conference on Thursday here, Emmanuel Macron did announce that there were 26 nations ready to deploy troops inside Ukraine the day after a peace agreement is signed to ensure that there are those guarantees for Ukraine. He did say that there will be extra effort put into regenerating and supporting the training of the Ukrainian army as well, so that it's not just able to defend itself, but it's able to also dissuade any future Russian incursion into Ukraine.
We have today 26 countries that have formally committed, with several others to clarify their position, but 26 countries committed to deploy as a reassurance force troops in Ukraine or to be present on the ground, at sea, in air, in order to bring this reassurance to the Ukrainian territory and to Ukraine the day after a ceasefire or peace.
Ukrainien et à l'Ukraine le jour d'après.
But it is also important for the European allies to have that support from the US, to have that participation from Washington in the designing of Ukraine's security architecture going forward. And Emmanuel Macron saying on Thursday that that should be defined properly in the coming days.
Les États-Unis d'Amérique ont été très clairs.
The United States of America has been very clear, and they were very clear since our meeting in Washington, and they reiterated it here. And this is also why they participated in all the work of recent weeks, on the support and their desire to be part of the security guarantees. So there is no doubt on this topic.
After the meeting in the morning of Thursday, there was a call they had with Donald Trump via video link with the US president to be able to update him on what they had discussed and also to agree that there should be an increase in the sanctions imposed on Moscow.
We talked to President Trump today. We are grateful for support. We discussed in detail how to create conditions for peace. We have discussed various options. The most important is pressure, economic actions that will force Russia to stop the war. The key to peace is to deprive Russian war machine of money, of resources. We have also raised the question of protecting Ukrainian sky, saving lives. As long as there is no peace, our people's lives are taken away by Russian attacks, Russian rockets, Iranian drones.
If there is no movement by the Kremlin towards holding that much discussed bilateral summit, and then after that, Emmanuel Macron is envisaging a possible trilateral summit between President Putin, President Zelensky and President Trump, and then a fourth quadrilateral summit between those three presidents and also European representation to try to ensure that there can be a peace accord agreed for Ukraine. Ross Cullen for AnewZ in Paris.
The Kremlin says security guarantees for Ukraine cannot come from foreign military contingents, dismissing the idea of European or US troops providing protection. In remarks published by Russia's RIA news agency, spokesman Dmitry Peskov also stressed that Moscow's negotiating team is already at high level. His comments come as talks over Ukraine's future security arrangements remain deeply contested, with Russia rejecting Western-led proposals. President Donald Trump said he plans to speak soon with Russia's President Vladimir Putin, adding that their past dialogues have been good. The remarks came after a call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking at a White House dinner with tech leaders, Trump described the Russia-Ukraine war as tougher than he expected, but remains determined to help bring this conflict to an end.
I will be. We're having a very good dialogue. I settled 7 wars. The one that I thought would be maybe one of the easiest. You know that feeling? You think one thing is going to be easier, turns out to be a little bit tougher. But the one that I thought would be an easier one because of my relationship with President Putin and with Ukraine and everything else, I thought it would be the Russia-Ukraine disaster, where this week 7,014 people were killed. Soldiers, in most cases soldiers, a few from Kiev, relatively few, but mostly soldiers, and they're being killed.
Israel says it now controls about 40% of Gaza City as it prepares to expand operations in the coming days. Thousands of residents are refusing to leave while international concern continues to mount. Israeli forces are advancing through the outskirts of Gaza City, moving closer to the centre. Health officials in Gaza say at least 53 Palestinians were killed on Thursday, most of them in the city. The operation began on the 10th of August with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing to defeat Hamas. Iranian British top security officials spoke by phone and agreed to continue exchanging views on resuming talks on Tehran's nuclear program. Our Turaj Shiraliliu has the details.
Iran Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, SNSC, Ali Larijani, and the UK National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, held a telephone conversation during which they discussed views on resuming the nuclear negotiations to settle the issue of return of the UN nuclear sanctions. According to the Noor News website, which is affiliated to the Council, Larijani and Powell agreed to continue exchanging views on resolving the nuclear dispute through negotiations. The UK, France and Germany are the European parties to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, and have referred the dispute to the UN Security Council to be discussed at the World Body in September on whether to reinstall Iran's nuclear sanctions blocked under Resolution 2231 for 10 years. Iran's president reappointed Larijani as secretary of the influential security body in August. He first served as SNSC secretary from 2005 to 2007 and was Iran's chief nuclear negotiator with the European powers in his first term. In the meantime, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said after returning from Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, China, that Tehran will do its utmost to prevent return of UN sanctions so that the world understands that the move by European Troika is illegal and unlawful. During his visit to Tianjin, Iran, China and Russia, in a joint letter addressed to the UN Secretary General and the President of the Security Council, rejected the call by the European Troika on demanding reimposition of Tehran's nuclear sanctions and termed it void of legal basis. According to Iran's top diplomat, the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA has accepted that developments following bombing of Iran's peaceful nuclear sites under the UN safeguards require a new cooperation framework. In the wake of the US-Israel 12-day war on Iran last June, Tehran suspended its cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, demanding a new modality in its relations with the agency. The IFRI has laid the resumption of Iran-IAEA ties as one of its major conditions for the nuclear talks with Tehran. Turaj Shiraliliu, reporting for AnewZ TV, Tehran.
International aid is pouring into Afghanistan after a series of devastating earthquakes struck the eastern provinces of Kunar and Nangarhar earlier this week. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
Pakistan has dispatched more than 100 tons of humanitarian assistance. The country's foreign minister and deputy prime minister confirmed the delivery on social media. The relief package includes food, medicines, tents, blankets and other essential supplies to support survivors. Pakistani leaders expressed condolences to the victims and reaffirmed solidarity with what they called the brotherly people of Afghanistan. Qatar has also sent emergency relief. A delegation led by Minister of State for International Cooperation, Maryam bint Ali bin Nasser, arrived in Kabul with aid meant for 11,000 people. The supplies consist of food, medical support and shelter materials. Meanwhile, Turkey's Red Crescent and Disaster and Emergency Management Authority delivered 25 tons of aid, including tents, blankets, food and medical kits. Officials say distribution to affected families is already underway. India, Iran and the United Arab Emirates have also extended support, underscoring a growing regional response to humanitarian crisis. Thousands of Afghans remain in urgent need of shelter and medical care as recovery efforts continue. The global outpouring of aid highlights the severity of the disaster and the solidarity of neighboring nations in this time of need. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for AnewZ.
US lawmakers are sounding the alarm over Georgia's growing engagement with Russia and China, raising concerns about the country's democratic trajectory and its relations with Western partners. The Helsinki Commission has called a hearing next week titled From Partner to Problem, Georgia's anti-American detour, even as military cooperation between Tbilisi and Washington continues.
Georgia's growing engagement with Russia and China has drawn attention in Washington, where lawmakers are questioning the country's direction in its relations with Western partners. The U.S. Helsinki Commission has scheduled a hearing for September 10 titled From Partner to Problem, Georgia's Anti-American Detour. The announcement notes concerns about the state of democratic institutions in Georgia, the treatment of opposition figures and protesters, and the country's openness to greater Chinese involvement in strategic sectors. It also mentions disputes around trade corridors and elections. At the same time, official cooperation between Georgia and the United States continues. In recent days, U.S. Ambassador at Large Alan Purcell introduced two new senior defense officials to Georgian Defense Minister Irakli Chikovani, highlighting ongoing military collaboration. This creates a notable contrast. While defense ties remain in place, policymakers in Washington are preparing to discuss how Georgia's internal and external policies may affect its partnership with the United States. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, AnewZ.
Armenian media are reporting that a delegation from the US will visit the country next week to discuss the Trump route project. Reportedly, the delegation will discuss not only the technical and political aspects of the corridor, but also the amount of investment needed and the timeline for its construction. No details of the visit have been officially disclosed yet. The fourth Turkey-Azerbaijan Energy Forum held in Izmir resulted in agreements on expanding cooperation between the countries in hydrocarbons, renewables and mining. Our Aliya Aziz has the details.
Turkey and Azerbaijan have taken another step forward in their deepening energy partnership. The fourth Azerbaijan-Turkey Energy Forum concluded today in Izmir, bringing together Azerbaijan's Energy Minister Perviz Shahbazov, Turkey's Energy and Natural Resources Minister Alparslan Bayraktar, and COP29 President Mukhtar Babayev, who participated in the forum, underscoring its global significance. The two sides signed a protocol aimed at strengthening cooperation across multiple areas, including hydrocarbons and petrochemicals, renewable energy, electricity markets, energy efficiency, regulation, and mining. 6 joint working groups presented their progress reports and laid out plans for future collaboration, highlighting joint efforts to align traditional energy projects with investments in clean and renewable technologies. Minister Alparslan Bayraktar stated that the forum sets a new roadmap for cooperation in both traditional and renewable energy, strengthening partnership for years to come.
We have very ambitious goals, particularly regarding turning Azerbaijan's renewable energy potential in the Caspian and in Nakhchivan into production, and then ensuring access to major markets such as Turkey, and through Turkey to Europe. We are strengthening our bonds of friendship with energy connections through transmission lines, pipelines, and natural gas lines, and truly contributing to supply security not only for both countries, but also for the wider region. We are also reinforcing these transmission lines with the quadrilateral green energy corridor established between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and Bulgaria.
Minister Parviz Shahbazov said the Azerbaijan-Turkey energy partnership has entered a new phase with projects like the Iğdır-Nakhchivan gas pipeline, the Shafak-Asiman project, and green energy initiatives, adding, "We are one nation, one state, and our energy cooperation reflects that unity."
Güçlü Azerbaycan-Türkiye enerji tərəfdaşlığı.
The Azerbaijan-Turkey energy partnership has entered a new stage, one that consolidates our countries as long-term partners in oil, gas and renewable energy, while strengthening our positions regionally and globally against the backdrop of shifting geopolitical realities. The commissioning of the Iğdır-Nakhchivan gas pipeline, TPAO's participation in the Shafak-Asiman project, the start of gas supplies to Syria, the establishment of green energy interconnectors, and the agreements reached on the Zangezur corridor, also known as the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, are writing a new, stronger chapter in our energy ties.
Included in the program, participants had a chance to visit Sokar's Aliağa terminal, underscoring Azerbaijan's growing role in Turkey's energy infrastructure. Both sides emphasized that the forum is not just about bilateral ties, but also about building a more integrated and resilient regional energy network. Launched in 2021 and previously held in Baku, Istanbul, and Nakhchivan, the Energy Forum reflects Turkey and Azerbaijan's shared vision of energy security, regional integration, and the transition to greener technologies, with this latest edition in Izmir highlighting how the two nations are aligning traditional energy with renewables while deepening their strategic partnership in shaping the region's energy future.
Uzbekistan is set to upgrade its transport network in 2 regions with a loan of more than $170 million from the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Our Sevil Rajapova has more in Tashkent.
The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank has finalized a loan agreement with the government of Uzbekistan to support the reconstruction of rural roads in the country's western regions. The project covers more than 516 kilometers of roadway in Khoizm and Kyrgyzstan. The first tranche, amounting to $71.1 million, was signed during the AIIB's annual meeting in Beijing and will finance the renovation of priority road segments in Khoizm. The second tranche will extend improvements across Kyrgyzstan. In total, the loan package amounts $173.4 million. Officials note that the phased financing will help Uzbekistan align infrastructure priorities with budget implementation, while also ensuring more inclusive and climate-resilient transport links. In recent years, transport infrastructure development has become one of Uzbekistan's biggest undertakings. Since late 2023, the government has allocated more than $2.1 billion for projects aimed at repairing and building over 40,000 kilometers of road and 540 bridges. In 2025 alone, plans include the reconstruction of 7,000 kilometers of public roads, 231 bridges, and 13,000 kilometers of unpaved roads. Major initiatives are also advancing with the support of international partners, such as the Asian Development Bank. World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and AIIB. 6 large-scale reconstruction projects covering around 1,200 kilometers are underway. A World Bank assessment estimates that Uzbekistan will need to expand its road infrastructure capacity by nearly 500% by 2030 and more than 1,300% by 2050 to meet the rise in demand. Beyond roads, the country is working to strengthen regional and international connectivity through railway projects. Construction of the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway, stretching 486 kilometers, is scheduled for completion by 2029. The line is expected to provide a crucial transit corridor linking Central Asia with the Pacific Ocean through China and with the Persian Gulf, significantly reducing transport times and costs for goods. Alongside this, a feasibility study has been agreed for the Uzbekistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan Railway, which will extend approximately by 573 kilometers and is projected to carry up to 20 million tons of freight annually. Together, these efforts mark a transformative stage in Uzbekistan's transport sector, aimed at improving rural accessibility and boosting regional trade.
The ICPC 2025 World Finals wrapped up in Baku on Thursday with a closing ceremony, following a press conference where officials underlined the competition's importance for global innovation and Azerbaijan's place in it.
ICPC 2025 comes to an end, a journey where the brightest minds from around the world turned code into solutions. Over the past days, teams have competed at the highest level, showcasing innovation, collaboration, and problem solving.
The 49th edition of the International Collegiate Programming Contest, hosted by ADA University, brought together more than 140 teams from over 50 countries in Baku from 31st August to 5th September. On Thursday, the competition concluded with the closing and award ceremony, preceded by a press conference where officials answered questions from the media. Speaking at the press conference, Fariz Ismailzadeh, the Vice-Rector of ADA University, emphasized the broader significance of hosting the competition in Azerbaijan.
Students from leading universities in America, Europe and Asia have come to Azerbaijan, where they are becoming acquainted with our country, learning about our culture and history. In the future, these young people will become leading figures in the IT industry and will hold key positions worldwide. Their experience of seeing Azerbaijan and recognizing its potential not only helps to promote our country, but also creates opportunities for building IT partnerships and advancing technological development.
For the future.
President of the ICPC Foundation expressed his appreciation to the host country.
I'd like to say thank you to the ICPC community here in Azerbaijan, because you see, ICPC is a global community that's bottom up, and the ICPC community in Azerbaijan effectively created itself with the same passion that others did over 2 decades ago, and some of those young stars in college make sure that the bank works. So thank you very much for that.
Meanwhile, Vusal Kalilov, the deputy chairman of the Central Bank of Azerbaijan, a partner of the ICPC World Finals, highlighted the role of ICPC alumni in advancing innovation.
As Mr. Pocher mentioned, amongst a lot of founders and main drivers of top tech organizations, there are a lot of ICPC alumni. And as central bank have a lot of ICPC alumni, and we believe that it will help to develop financial market, and not only financial, but broadly help to digitalize the country.
The champion of the ICPC 2025 World Finals was St. Petersburg University, securing the top prize after days of intense competition.
Yeah, the contest was good. Everything turns out to be very good for us. We solved like everything we could.
The ICPC is recognised as the world's largest and most prestigious collegiate programming contest. Each year, more than 70,000 students from over 110 countries take part, representing approximately 3,500 universities. Azerbaijan has been part of the regional round since 2004, and until now was represented at the World Finals by a single team. For the first time this year, 2 Azerbaijani teams from ADA University and Baku Higher Oil School competed on the global stage.
That's the news update from us in Baku this morning. Stay tuned to AnewZ for more updates.